My name is Dr. Wanda Toro-Tarini. I'm the host of your Rocket Fuel workshop today. Let me tell you a little bit about Rocket Fuel workshops. First of all, our goal, our mission is to connect people to the experts that are doing amazing things for people's businesses or for people's lives. When we need to do anything hard in our lives, the best way to get you to that next level, to break through whatever it is that you're struggling with, is to connect with somebody that knows how to coach you to get to the other side. So I want to introduce you today to our special guest, who is Janelle Green. Janelle is a marriage strategist, also a certified life coach, a forgiveness coach, an inner child healer. And her sole mission is to save marriages from divorce, because it ultimately ends that horrible cycle of generational trauma that's caused by parents and carried on generation to generation. Essentially, she has been always passionate about creating powerful partnership. Janelle has helped numerous couples actually return from that brink of divorce in as little as 30 days, actually helping them completely reset their mindset and reset their marriage. Welcome, Janelle. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. So I want to start with a question. Hands up, who here struggles with managing their time, their energy, their focus between home and work? Hands up.
Ugh.
Right? So many of us. And who here has people at home who complain that you work too much? I know I do. So I'm going to share with you my some slides here that I really help you guys, especially those of you that are visual learners, to really start to digest this. Because I think for some of you that might be watching this, this could be a game changer for you. And so whatever it is that you're doing right now, I want you to take the time to just really focus on this, especially if, you have signed up for this. This is probably really, really important to you. And I just want to, first of all, acknowledge you guys for being here. You could be anywhere else, and here you are with me. So I just want to say thank you for that and for your time. So let's talk about the problem, okay? And this is why we're here today. The problem that I see is that many of us live to work rather than working to live. And as we start to climb that corporate ladder, we start to make work and money and achievement a priority over family, even our health and our overall happiness. And I know for myself, being such a, committed, relentless, high achiever in sales, there was a lot of times where I kind of forgot why I was doing what I was doing. I was just kind of on this hamster wheel, right? Just go, 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 and not going like, okay, what am I even doing? Why am I even doing this? And should I even be doing this? We just kind of get into this autopilot. And the impact of that on first of all, our family and our relationships is we start to lose connection. We start to create distance. And with our kids or our spouse, we start to miss out on those beautiful small moments when we're either not present or not even available to be there for those moments that you can never get back. And then we end up becoming strangers in our own house. And we end up just kind of being roommates. And at the end of the day, what gets really impacted is our aliveness, our energy, our mood, our focus, our mental well-being. So you are in the right place if you struggle with managing your time, your energy, and all the demands that all these different groups of people have on you, or if your marriage is really, is the biggest stress in your life, and that's also impacting perhaps your career and your, again, ability to feel happy and calm. And you're in the right place if you want to learn how to create a home life that is as rewarding, as awesome, as juicy, as exciting and meaningful as your career. So I want to just, before I get into it, I really want to just cover like why this topic and why am I talking to specifically corporate people? Because first of all, I get how hard it is to try to be everything to everyone and still have time for yourself. But, really for me, why this topic is important is, number one, as a relationship coach, as someone who's happily married, divorce rates are still climbing, especially since COVID. I think we're at about 70% right now. And the family values that we used to just cherish and were so sacred is starting to dissipate. Home should be our safe haven. Our family should be our safe haven. And for many of us, it's quite the opposite. And so there's a huge concern that I have, and the impact on our children when this happens, when we're not available, when we aren't good. I don't know if you guys, I try not to watch the news. I really do, because it's depressing, right?
Yeah.
And, I hear about these school shootings. I hear about these, 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds that are committing suicide. It breaks my heart. And what I see in the future, if we don't change things, we're going to create the society where family is no longer a thing. We're just a bunch of people who are so scared to love, to fight for what we love, because we're so afraid of being rejected, that we just end up convincing ourselves that we don't need anybody. But you and I both know, as humans, we were built to be in community. We were built to connect. And those of us that try to convince ourselves that we don't need that are the ones that suffer and are in denial.
Janelle, I just want to pop in here because I want to reiterate, why it was important for us to feature you as well. I think, when you're in a struggling relationship, it's very easy to focus on just how it affects the two of you, right? But this truly is something that it not only impacts your children if you have children, right? But it impacts anybody else that's seeing what that relationship is about. Other people, perhaps it's your nieces or your nephews, or it's just there is a ripple effect, whether it's positive or negative.
Yeah.
And so that's why I thought it was just so important, your perspective on this. It wasn't just about mending that relationship and that marriage, which is of course why people may be listening right now. But I think when we kind of realize like the impact that it has across the board and how important it is for us to really fight to have better relationships. And I don't like using the word fight because it seems negative, but that it's worth it.
Yeah. Well, I have so many clients whose issues, mommy daddy issues, is because their dad just gave up. They just left. And as a small person, as a young person, you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and this is perfect, because my next point is, I have a personal reason why I'm doing this topic, is because I was a subject of that experience. I experienced my dad leaving. I experienced that confusion and all of that, the stories that I made up about why my dad left. So, I think now is actually a really great time to share this. Do you guys mind if I share this personal story?
Please do.
Okay, great. So there I am. I'm 9 years old. I'm sitting on the bed. It's nighttime. This is one of these moments that you will never forget, right, in your life. But I remember it was nighttime. I remember it was winter. And I'm sitting on my bed and I hear my mom calling us 3 kids. So I'm 9, my sister's 6, my brother's 3 at this time. And so we come running into the living room. And when we get there, there's my mom, my dad, and a set of luggage. And my mom turns to us and says, "Kids, your dad's leaving." I'm getting emotional. "Your dad's leaving. He doesn't love us anymore." And I think she said that like to make him feel guilty, but like that's something that I remember is mom saying dad doesn't love us anymore. And as a daddy's girl, it's like, what do you mean? And all I remember is there wasn't much conversation. He kind of just turned around, grabbed his bags, and left. And I remember standing at that bay window on the second floor, looking down, watching my dad leave, waiting for him to turn around. And he didn't. He just kept going. And there was this brown car waiting for him. I remember that. And I remember thinking, I wonder who's in that brown car. And what you guys don't know is that my dad had an affair with my mom's best friend.
Mm.
He used to live in our basement, and he got her pregnant. And he chose them over us. And so that experience in my life really left a scar in me. And I didn't realize how big of a scar it was until I tried to have my own relationships. And all of that stuff showed up. And, you know, in doing the work, I've been doing this work for 20 years. And in doing the work, what I discovered for myself was that in that moment, standing at that window, watching my dad leave, my 9-year-old mind said, you're unlovable. You can't trust anybody, and everybody you love will leave you. So guess how my relationships went, right? Now, this epiphany didn't occur until like just recently. And when I say recently, like I'm talking 10, 15 years ago. But in that moment, you know, going through my first divorce, I'm like, what is it about me? Like, why do I keep attracting these kind of people? And what is it about me that makes me think it's okay to be treated this way? And really what I got is I actually didn't feel worthy deep down. And there was stuff about my dad and that experience that was still showing up in my future, even though it had happened almost 35 years ago. And so I want you guys to consider if you have a similar traumatic story of your childhood and you're now in a relationship or in a marriage that you're like, I don't know why I'm the way I am. I want you to get it's okay. And it's not your fault and you're not alone. But I want to just finish the story because the beauty, there was actually a happy ending to the story. So I don't want to leave you guys hanging with, oh my God, that was terrible. But really, so what happened was my parents had separated, right? And 3 years later, my dad comes back to my mom and says, I'm sick and I need you to take care of me. And what happened is both his kidneys failed, and now he was, oh, someone's coming in. And now he was dying, and he was waiting for a transplant for a kidney. And he waited about 10 years. So my mom said yes. My mom said, absolutely. She didn't hang it over his head, but she's like, yeah. She's like, I have 2 conditions though. First condition is that if you're here with us, you're here with us. There's none of this back and forth stuff. And secondly, we just let this go. We forgive and we move on. And, you know, my mom is my hero. And she kept her word. She never brought it up, no matter how much they fought. It was never brought up again. And if it was brought up, it was brought up by my dad because, you know, he had these moments of guilt. And my mom's just like, no, I don't want to talk about it. Wow. And it's interesting because, it sounds like a really great thing, but, you know, in my family, what I was taught, how I was programmed was you don't apologize. You just pretend everything's okay. And so, you know, in this regard, it worked. I want people to get, you know, we're talking about resetting a marriage. I really want you guys to get that it is possible to reset your marriage, but you have to be willing to forgive and have something that is a big why as to why you want to do that. And it has to be not from a place of scarcity. Like, I don't want to be alone. Right. Or I don't want to lose all my money in a divorce, but it's really like from a place of love. Right. And the promise that you made. So I just wanted to share. So thank you for allowing me.
Wow. Yeah, no. And it's such a transformation because so many people feel like whatever they went through, and even potentially having already gone through divorce, right, that there's no way back, right?
Yeah.
And if I can ask, so how long was it again between your father leaving with this other family and him coming back? Like, how long of a gap was that?
Yeah, it was about 3 to 4 years.
Wow.
But, you know,
no, so my thought is, I mean, that's a long time. That's the long separation. That feels like a divorce.
Yeah. Yeah. It was so traumatic. And I remember these conversations with my mom, like, okay, so when you go to court, now this is obviously before they reconciled, but she would ask me things like, okay, so when you go to court and the judge asks you, who do you want to live with? What are you going to say? Right? And so there was this like pinning against each other.
Yeah.
And at the time, you're like, I have to choose one parent.
Yeah.
And
so all of this goes to like all of the words that are said between that couple, right? All of the actions, you know, for those of you listening, all the actions that you are you know, doing right now, and the words that you're saying, they are having that ripple effect. They're being heard. They're creating. If you don't mind me saying something, when I interviewed you on the podcast, and you said, family, home is where you learn to be loved and where you learn how to love, something like that. It was beautiful, like what you said. And it's like watching all of those interactions. It's, man, you're leaving your mark. You're leaving your mark. So anyway, I'm going to let you continue on with your PT education, but I love being able to share the why behind this topic, because I think it's really important to put the weight on it, because it's not just about two people.
Yeah. And it's not just about like this airy fairy idea called, you know, because I'm guessing that if there's anyone listening to this that is in the situation, there's probably a lot of resignation. Like, you don't know what you're talking about, Janelle. If you don't know my husband or you don't know my wife, right? There could be something like that. But I just want to say, like, it is possible if you are willing, if that is something that you both want. I think one of the issues why we're unable to get over ourselves is our pride and our ego. And a lot of times when we tell our friends what's going on, they're the ones trying to convince us to save the marriage. They're the ones that are like, you've been wronged and you shouldn't put up with that. And like, fair enough. But a lot of times what we really want is to be together. And we're so afraid of looking bad and what people will say rather than actually what we want.
Yeah. Yeah. Ugh.
Right. All right.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So I just wanted to include one little slide about myself. I've actually been married for 17 years. My husband, Mike, is my best friend. He is my cheerleader. He is my confidant. He is my playmate. Our relationship is based on respect, compassion, teamwork, and being present with each other. And so, you know, that's what I want for everyone else, because like even just making the move from corporate to becoming a coach was a big decision, and having his support and him saying, hey, I believe in you, you can do this, made such a huge difference. Right.
And I want to point out that that wasn't your win off of out of the gates, right?
No, it was not. I actually have been married before Michael. But, you know, it's funny because, you look at times of life and you're like, oh, I wish that didn't happen, or you have regrets. And I have taken on the student philosophy that there are no mistakes and every challenge is an opportunity to learn and grow. And I really saw that had I not gone through that divorce, because, you know, I'm a Catholic Filipino, like that's not something we do. I did not anticipate that was going to happen. You know, but, you know, having gone through that experience, I have so much compassion for people who are going through that. And had I not had that experience, I wouldn't have figured out what I needed to fix. Because I had it like the problem was with all men. All men are this way, right? Right? But I was like, I never actually looked at myself and go, okay, who am I being? And do I even love and respect myself enough to attract the kind of man that is going to love and respect me? So, you know, this is why I'm so passionate about, you know, ending this inherited generational trauma that are caused by parents and divorce and the impacts of that. Now, before I became a coach, I used to work in corporate. So, you know, this is why I speak the way I speak. And I actually used to work as a strategic alliance manager for the 5 top banks in the country. And so I really have always been about connection and about really creating partnership, but like a lot of you, I too struggled with finding balance, dealing with burnout, and, really trying to take care of myself as well as taking care of my team and my coworkers, and, flying all over the world and doing all I do. It's hard. It's a juggle. And I don't even have kids, so I can't even imagine what it's like for you guys who do have children and you're trying to be everyone to everything. And, and again, I have a lot of experience. I think my superpower, if I'm really honest, is compassion. And the reason I have this level of compassion, my friends always tease me. They're like, oh my God, Janelle, you're like the most compassionate person I've ever met. If that were me, I would just be like judging the crap out of them. But I think the reason why I'm able to do that is because I've been there. I've been there. I know what it's like to go through all of that, including infidelity on both sides. So, all right. So today, I really wanted to talk about, like, okay, so how did we do it? And how, I took what I saw from my parents. I took what I learned as a relationship coach. I took all the experiences that I have with my clients and really started to think about, like, and starting to dissect, okay, what is needed for people to have the kind of results that my parents had if they're going through a similar situation. So this is where this presentation comes in, is really talking about, like, what are the things that we need to understand and really believe in order to make that transformation happen in our marriage, right? So number one, you need to create a unified vision. You need to shift your energy and your focus, so thinking about my parents, right? Like they agreed that this is what we wanted. They agreed that they wanted to stay together. They agreed that they wanted to co-parent in the same house and forgive each other for what happened. And they really started to shift the energy from the past and all the anger and the sadness and disappointment, and really focus on, okay, how do we create something new? And what's so miraculous about it is that my dad, when he came back, he was a better father. He was a better husband. He never used to go to church with us. Now he was going to church every single day. And it was beautiful. And so again, I believe that everything in our lives happened for a reason. And the extra bonus of this is I got a brother out of it. And I actually didn't meet my half brother until my dad's funeral. He's like, I'm your brother. And it was so crazy. This man is a spitting image of my dad. He doesn't remember my dad because my dad left when he was, I think, 2 or 3. But he's a spitting image, and he's like a beautiful man, and I love him. My mom loves him. My siblings love him. So we got a new sibling, which is really, really amazing. So I love sharing that story because I get that that's not normal. I get how extraordinary that story is, and so I really want you guys to just get that there's hope, right? And and it's not your fault that whatever you're trying to do, trying to fix it on your own, it's not working. And that's okay. And you're not alone. And having an accountability partner, whether that's a coach or, a mentor, is the best option to help you finally achieve that reset that you're looking for. Reset for your marriage, reset for your life, whatever. So I have a question for you guys. Why is it that our wedding day often is the happiest day of our life? You guys think about that. Well, the reason why it's the happiest day of our lives is because we have a vision, right? We're creating a new possibility. We have that picture in our mind of the white picket fence and the dog and the 3 kids and the minivan and, you guys frolicking in the beach in Jamaica or whatever. We get excited about that. And then, we come back from our honeymoon and we're on this high and we're like, yeah, anything is possible. We're, nothing can tear us down, right? We're unpenetrable. And then all of a sudden life happens. And we start, bills happen, kids happen, mortgage happens. And then stuff happens, death happens, right? And then we have our first argument. And then we start to, feel disappointed. And now that high that we were on starts to drop. And then there comes to a point when we start to question ourselves. We start to question our partner's integrity. And then we start to really look at like, did I make the right decision? Right? And then we start to make up stories. And so as you can see, like it's this downward spiral that unless we have the awareness and the tools or the accountability partner to say, hold on, you're going the wrong way, you're going to keep going down that black hole. And oftentimes, until the moment that you realize that you're in this black hole, it's too late. And so this is why this topic for me is really, really important. So how do we get back on the same page? We got to get clear about what it is that we want and stop focusing on what we don't want, the resistance, the fear, the frustration, all of that negative energy. And I get it. It's so easy just to focus on, here are all the things, here are all the problems, and resisting it rather than going, okay, well, what's missing? What would make the difference in our marriage right now that would totally turn this around? Rather than sitting, blaming, getting frustrated, feeling like it's your fault, dealing with guilt, all that stuff. So I want to ask you guys, like, what is it that you're actually committed to? Now I want to talk about really what commitment is, right? Commitment, you think about that word. Commitment is a place to stand. It is a powerful place to stand. To me, commitment has nothing to do with a circumstance or the situation. So for example, if I'm committed to losing 10 pounds, it doesn't matter if I gain a pound or two in a week, because I'm committed. I'm going to do whatever it takes. And oftentimes, when we're in a situation, in a relationship where it feels very negative, it's very, it's that low vibration. We stop thinking, we stop planning, we stop dreaming, we stop creating, we stop communicating. And so when I meet with couples, that's my question. My number one question is, what do you want and what are you committed to? Because when you and your partner can have a unified vision of what you're committed to, now you're back on the same page. Oftentimes when I meet with couples, it's like they think they're so different. They're like, oh, we want different things. Well, actually, no, you don't. You both want to be happy. You both want to stay together. You both want to be great parents, right? And so when they realize like, oh, we're actually committed to the same thing, now there's new doors that open for possibility and really getting back on the same page. So number two, yeah.
I just want to just comment on that because it kind of changes the perspective of, from running away from something or focusing on the negative things that are happening, right? Or trying to change something. You're saying, you know what? I just want to move towards something else. And inherently by moving towards that something else, you are moving away from those other things, but you're not, the focus isn't there. It's on getting out of the hole. It's like, throwing that hook up there and saying, okay, I'm going to focus on getting myself out of that trench.
Here's the analogy I love to use, Wanda. It's like driving a car with looking at your rearview mirror. You're not actually looking forward. You're not looking where you're going. You're looking in the rear. Guess what? You're going to crash.
Yeah.
And what's in the rearview mirror is not going to get you where you want to go. And I get that that's difficult when you're inside of that, that negative vibe, but it just takes an awareness. And this is why this conversation is so important, because when you are aware of something, now you can do something about it. But when it's in your blind spot, right? When you don't know that you don't even know it, you can't do anything about it.
Right.
Right. So number two, you want to shift your energy. This is perfect. You shift your energy and your focus from negative to positive, from the don't want, from the resistance, from the frustration and the avoiding to the want, the desire, the thing that you're committed to the vision. You want to go from being fearful, right, and scared to love. I believe that hate is not the opposite of love. I believe that fear is the opposite of love, because when you're in love, you can't judge. And when you're judging, you can't love. It's just not possible. So, we want to move from judging to compassion. Judging is very much like there's something wrong over there. But when I think of compassion, I think of tolerance, I think of patience, I think of understanding, I think of being supportive and compassionate for someone, right? We don't know what people have gone through. We don't know what life experiences they've had. We don't know why they act the way they do. But the problem is we make it like it's something personal, like they're purposely trying to hurt us or upset us, when sometimes they're just doing what they know how to do. And oftentimes it's not the right thing. But this is why this conversation is, again, so important. We want to shift from focus on the problem to focusing on a solution. And this is where coaching is so different from therapy. If you want to talk about the problem, you want to hash out, you guys haven't been communicating, you want to hash out what's actually going on, therapy and counseling is great for that. But most times couples come to me and say, I need a solution. We need a new strategy. We need a new way, a new approach to, communicating. And we need new skills. That's where coaching is really, really effective. Because again, looking in the rear view mirror isn't going to get you where you want to go. You want to learn how to drive that car. You want to learn where your blind spots are, right?
Yeah.
You might even want to buy a car that has all the, I have a car that tells me when there's someone in my blind spot and, parallel parks my car for me. You just want to have whatever assets and tools to really help you win and make this process so much easier. And the last one is you want to shift from blame, which is very, like the victim mentality, to responsibility. Okay. Now, before I move on to the next slide, I just want to touch on the word responsibility. I know a lot of people get a little triggered by the word responsibility because they, what's the word I'm looking for? Connect that to responsibility means fault, blame, obligation. What else does responsibility sound like, Wanda?
Yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, you're responsible. Therefore, you are at the core of the issue. Yeah.
But it's like a kind of a negative thing. It's like you're responsible. But I want you guys to consider a different context of the word responsibility, because I use the word a lot, and I want people to make sure that I know what I'm talking about, that they know what I'm talking about. But responsibility, to me, consider that the word responsibility is simply the ability to respond. Because when you're disempowered, when you have it like life is coming at you and life is happening to you, you have no power. You have no power to make a difference or to create something newly. But when you can get responsible, like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I got to lose 10 pounds because you know what? I've been eating too much chocolate and chips. Yep, I'm responsible for that. Yep, I'm responsible for my finances. Yep, I'm responsible for the state of my marriage. And not from a place of judgment, but really from a place of discernment, right? There's no good, bad here. It's just like, yeah, my life is the way it is. My body is the way it is because I chose that. Maybe subconsciously, but you still chose it, right? So where focus goes, energy flows. So where is your focus? Are you focusing on the negative, or are you focusing on the vision, on your commitment, on where you want to go, on the future? So why is change so hard, especially in relationships? First of all, change is hard because we are creatures of habit. We're human, right? And we love to feel comfort. We love certainty and we love stability. But here's the thing, is real change, like the one that you were talking about here, like transformation, occurs outside of our comfort zone. It occurs in that space where we don't know that we don't know. And of course, if you don't know what you don't know, then you don't know that you don't even know it, right? So you can't do anything about it. And for some reason, we've been brought up in this society that we're allergic to failing. Like we think a failing is bad. And, I'm definitely there too. But what if we looked at failing like just what it is? We just didn't fulfill. That person said no. Okay. It doesn't mean anything about me. And maybe I failed at this thing called losing 10 pounds. I failed at this thing called going to the gym this morning. It doesn't mean anything. but we carry that guilt because, being Catholic, I know all about the guilt thing, right? And it's just this thing, it's this like, it's in our subconscious, it's part of us. And until we can really see that, we can't shift that. And the thing is, we are so afraid as humans, we fear the unknown. We fear being uncomfortable. So we stay in our little comfy box, even though we know what we want is outside of that. We're sometimes unwilling to take that chance because of fear of rejection and failure. But isn't it worth it though sometimes to be willing to actually fail and to be rejected and to keep trying? And lastly, it is really difficult. I'm not going to lie. It is really, really, really difficult to transform this on your own because you just don't know how. Because if you knew how, you would have done it already. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be willing to do things that feel scary for us in order to take the new action, in order to get the new result. You can't keep doing the same thing that's not working and expecting a new result. That's insanity. So, I want to talk quickly about why it's not your fault. Why is it not your fault that you got these thoughts and you can't seem to make your relationship work and you feel like you can't do anything right? Again, it's really difficult to do on your own, and you really need that outside support. And again, we're human, and it's not your fault that you can't communicate, you don't know how to listen. We were taught really bad habits. We were taught, instead of, connecting and listening and understanding and supporting and empathizing, we were taught, especially in school, right? We have to win. We have to justify ourselves. We have to judge. We have to compare ourselves to others. We got to dominate and manipulate. We avoid. We get defensive. We lie. And so, again, this is why we can't find success in this. Again, until we change the habits and behaviors that have been programmed in us at a very young age. We have our parents who have raised us for the first, 20 years of our life, bringing in their own emotional baggage, their own trauma from their parents, and we never came with instruction manuals. So they're doing the best they can. But a lot of times what they're doing is bringing more fear to us, right? They love us, they're trying to protect us, but then we stop trusting ourselves. We start looking to them for validation, to tell us that we're doing things right, rather than going inwards. And, books and podcasts, they're great, but they're based in logic. They're very step 1, step 2, step 3. But when you're in it, when you're in the storm, does any of that matter? No, because again, you have to change your behavior. And books and podcasts aren't going to do that. You have to have an accountability partner or someone to say, hold on, you're not doing that right. Or hold on, did you just see what you did there? And go, oh, right. And so then you have the chance to adjust and tweak that. Because when we're hijacked and triggered by our emotions, we can't do anything. And so, I want to talk a little bit about our program. So as children, I want you guys to consider that as children, we're taught that in order to get love, you must be a good girl or good boy. You must obey. And if you're not a good boy or a good girl, and you're a bad girl or a bad boy, you experience rejection, right? So now we're like people pleasers. We become these people pleasers. And then, we're trained not to ask a lot of questions. I remember my sister always going, Mom, but why, Mom? But why? And then just being told, because I said so. So then, okay, that's great as children, but now we become adults who don't even question what's going on in the world. We don't even question our thoughts or beliefs and where they came from. We just go, oh, that's just the way I am. And so we get stuck and we can't grow from that. No, we're told we need to be strong. We need to be tough. We need to be perfect. We need to be the best. We need to be, and so we're all constantly dealing with not feeling good enough. We're always comparing ourselves, our worst day, to someone else's best day. And this is why, to me, social media can get really, really dangerous, because we really start to, compare. It's like all the things that we don't have to everything that everybody else has. And it's not healthy. And, we often tell ourselves too, if people loved us, if my partner loved me, they would listen. And if they don't agree or listen to me, it means that they don't care. rather than it just means that they don't agree. Right?
Right.
We tell ourselves that we spend our lives keeping people at arm's length emotionally and physically, I guess. When really what we truly want deep down is to feel loved, connected, and to belong. But it's so hard to really see that and to deal with all that stuff when we have all of this other stuff, this trauma that we haven't actually dealt with. It's really hard to hear that our inner truth. And we all have a different truth. My truth is different from yours, Wanda, is different from everyone else's. And that's okay. It's okay to have a difference of truth. It's when we disrespect or make it mean that we shouldn't be together or that the relationship has a problem. Me and my husband are complete opposites, complete in every single way, shape, or form. He's 6'2", I'm 4'10". He's a homebody. I love to travel. I'm outgoing. He's shy, right? I'm creative. He's an IT guy. Is that a problem? Absolutely not. But you know what? It's not our parents' fault either. Because again, family is where we learn to love and be loved. And if our parents didn't have that in their home, what makes us think that they're going to do a better job with us? They may, but it's really difficult to undo all that programming that we've had since we were like a baby. So it's up to us to stop the generational trauma right now in our own families. So then, I just want to throw this question out to you guys, just as a reflection. What lessons or beliefs are you teaching your children regarding relationships and communication? What are your actions actually showing and teaching your kids about money, about family, about conflict, about kindness, about responsibility, about patience? We might be, trying we might be preaching to them these core values, but what are the actions? What are they seeing when they're at home with us? And finally, are you being a strong role model? One that you can actually be proud of. So again, it's not your fault, and you're not alone. So the last thing is really the benefits of having an accountability partner. Having an accountability partner can really help you clarify your goals and your purpose, motivate you to take new actions that you've never done before, and really support you in that and hold you accountable to your vision and the promises that you said are important to you, and to challenge those negative beliefs, the fears, those thoughts, and really, show you a new way of thinking that's going to help strengthen your emotional resilience and discipline. And for those of you that, around marriage, it's really about helping you find a solution and focus on the emotional growth. Because you know what? To do the work, I'm going to be honest, is a lot cheaper than paying for a divorce to happen. And you get to keep your house, and you get to keep your kids, and you get to keep your wife. So, I'm just going to take a pause here for a second because I've been talking a lot. Wanda, is there anything that I've missed? Anything we want to just sort of?
No, I mean, I think it's super powerful. And I think the biggest thing is for us all to realize whenever we receive all of this type of information and we're like, oh my goodness, this is possible. The intention of one educational experience is not to completely change the way you've been doing things for potentially decades, right? But it starts with that awareness that you had mentioned, right? Where when you talked about the awareness, I thought of how in a previous relationship with my ex-boyfriend, how I would feel like I'd be justified being snippy. It's well, I'm not naturally snippy.
Yeah, he did that.
But I'm justified in responding this way, right?
Yeah.
Because of blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden it's just you start rationalizing why you're somebody that you don't want to be or that you don't wish to be. And so it's the moment that you become aware and say, ooh, I reacted that way, but I don't want to react that way. It's just my emotions that drove me to react that way and all those things. Then it starts to change because you have the ability to control how you respond right? You have that ability. So I think that was a very, powerful message too. And there are just so many golden nuggets in all of this. And for me, the most important thing is to recognize that it is possible. We'll talk about, in the Q&A session, there's a question that was submitted. And I'll throw in a couple of other ones as well, but just feeling like even after divorce, is it even possible to overcome, to turn things around after you've, apparently done the severing, but our hearts still feel, right? You could still say, oh, we went through the motion of doing this thing that we thought was right, but that unified vision could still be wanting that other person in their lives, so I mean, I could go on and on. I just love like what you teach, and this is beautiful stuff. I'll let you conclude, and then we'll go on over to the open discussion session. But thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, I just want to make maybe 2-3 more points here, because I think we've covered a lot of this, but really, a reminder that your family wants you, your time, your attention. We think, oh, they want the toys, they want, I got to provide for all these things. Consider none of that is as important as your presence, your quality time, right? Because you guys are the ones who are really setting these kids up for the future. This is where they learn everything. And if you show them that, work is more important, guess what they're going to do when they grow up? They're going to also neglect their parent or neglect their family and really just focus on work. And the other one is, you cannot give and teach what you do not know for yourself. So this came from, a lot of couples ask me, who deal with infidelity, they ask me, I want to forgive, but how? I don't know how. I want to, I just don't know how. And my question or my response back is always, what is it that you haven't forgiven yourself for? Because if you don't know what forgiveness is for yourself, you don't know what compassion is for yourself, you're not able to, you don't know how to give that to you. How can you give that to somebody else? How can you give that to your spouse or your kids? So you got to be the change you wish to see. You can't just, spout all of these beautiful things and not actually be in alignment or integrity with it. It's just, talk. It's not actually, being the role model that you want to be. And finally, it does take teamwork to make the dream work. So if there's anyone here that manages people at work, there's a lot of these distinctions that apply at home. And we think that, work is very different from home, but there are actually a lot of things. Like if you think about, the best hockey, I love hockey. So I love to talk about hockey, but if you think about the best teams, what is it that makes them really great, right? Communication, teamwork, leadership, presence, mindset, responsibility, accountability, planning, all these things you can actually incorporate into your family. But you got to be able to be willing to make it a priority. At the end of the day, I think that's what this is all about.
Right.
Is making whatever it is that you want, whether that's a marriage, a happy life, a priority. Because we say that, and yet our actions say something else. If you guys would like a copy of how to start the conversation and how to reset your marriage, text the word reset to 411-321. Or again, if you're outside of the US, you can text reset to 1-909-741-1321 via WhatsApp.